Yeah.
So, James, you said you went to performing arts.
Yeah, so
High school?
I was a terrible Baylor student. I played soccer and ran cross country, so I sort of fit the mold. But I was like the long hair, I was getting bullied, and I played guitar since I was like 10.
Yeah.
And I wanted to be a rock star and all that stuff. And so
you left Baylor.
Yeah.
And went to.
I would like to say it was a mutual decision, but I was also not invited to come back.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I went to it was called Phoenix 3 School for. Now I think it's just Chattanooga School for Performing Arts, and I played classical guitar.
That's kind of rock and roll.
Yeah.
Well,
I was super into metal for a long time.
My story would be that I got kicked out of Baylor.
Yeah. I was pretty close.
Yeah. It's like, look, in high school or middle school, I got kicked out of the Baylor school. I was way more rock and roll than the school was. So I chose.
Yeah.
Yeah, the school didn't fit me, right?
That would be my story.
Yeah.
One of my last hurrahs at Baylor was we had like a lock-in in the gym for 8th grade.
Mm-hmm.
And I put together this scheme that my buddies and we would bring our backpacking stuff and tell our parents we were going to the lock-in. But really, we all met up and then took off up into the hills behind Baylor and stole some whiskey from our parents and everything. Had a big time. About 3 o'clock in the morning, one of the teachers showed up. I was like, "What are you?" Anyway, somebody had ratted us out.
Oh.
Wait, was this 8th grade?
Yeah.
Dang.
He said, yeah.
Mr. Farley got going early.
So he kind of did get kicked
Yeah.
out. Yeah.
Dang, 8th grade, man. I got a son that's about to get into 8th grade. I'm gonna have to keep my eye on that boy.
Watch the liquor cabinet.
I know. I'm about to put a lock on it.
Yeah, the deal at Baylor was that towards the end of your year, you'd get a letter in the mail that was like your invitation to come back. And I did not get one of those.
That's pretty.
So it's like a soft release.
Yeah, that's pretty rock and roll.
Yeah.
So you grew up in Chattanooga, right?
Yep.
And you moved to Nashville after college or after high school?
2003.
Okay.
So I did all variety of things, and got out of high school, was a mechanic for a while, got an associate's degree in automotive technology.
Okay.
It was a transmission mechanic at a Ford dealership, and then went back to college to study business, and then didn't finish that, and got into building computers, and then got a job at an insurance agency doing IT support, and got my license to sell insurance, and got into sales, and then got recruited to come work for Dell in Nashville.
Okay. So you James Farley, getting out of high school, you thought you were going to be an auto mechanic?
Yeah. So in high school, I was super obsessed with Jeeps. I later quit Jeeps and got more into international scouts.
Yeah.
Because they were less easier to get cheap.
They were cooler.
Yeah, they were cooler. But yeah, 21-year-old James, I had a brand new F-350 truck and a trailer and a big Scout with 1-ton axles underneath it, and would go trail riding on the weekends. And
dang, you had a F-350 brand new?
it was in 1997. Yeah, it was when I worked for Ford, so we got like the E-plan or whatever they call it, like the employee deal.
Yeah.
And that was 97 was the last year of the old square body style Super Duties that had the International Harvester diesel. Before they went to like the modern Power Stroke.
Are you still a car guy, James?
Yeah.
Yeah. Still a off-road guy?
Not really. I think I got to a point where you have a Jeep or whatever it is, and you spend $1,000 and all night, all week fixing it up and breaking all the stuff that you're fixing the stuff you broke the week before, than to just go out and do it again.
I was right there too.
And after a while, I was like, this just doesn't make any economic sense.
Yeah. I was a Jeep guy too. I had a TJ that had all the stuff here.
Yeah. TJ is the last one that I had new. I had a 2000 TJ.
Yeah. Mine was a 99.
I'm still, that's kind of my thing I'm looking at now, because I'm trying to decide, should I buy a new car or not? I'm like, I might just drive this old beater and try to find like a...
Man, if you could get
the LJ, the long wheelbase TJ.
And a Rubicon, it'd be even cooler.
That is the holy grail.
Before we go any further, let's get James introduced.
And then you want to
introduce James?
Then you want us to explain what that is? Yeah.
Oh, I had some questions about the Jeep stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm not an off-wheel 4-wheel drive kind of guy, but you
Yeah.
guys got some insight there. So.
Yeah. So Jeep always has a letter nomenclature in front of what it is. So like everybody remembers a CJ5, right? The kind of the shorter rounded door. Then it went to a CJ7, which was a little longer wheelbase, and it had more square or rectangular door shape, all circular headlights. Then they went to a YJ.
You also had the CJ8, which was like the
Yeah,
scrambler.
a scrambler. Yeah, CJ8. We had people that had one of those, or a friend had one in high school. But the YJ was the square headlight Jeep. You would probably remember that.
Yeah.
Then it went to the TJ in 1996, I guess 97. I don't think there was such thing as a 96.
The TJ was the first one that was more of a. It was like everything up to that point was an evolution.
Yeah.
It was all leaf springs and standard drivetrain.
road rough and
Yeah. TJ was an evolution. You went to coil springs in the front
Okay.
and
The one in 97.
yes,
Yeah.
all coil springs all the way around.
Yeah.
And it was like it's the first Jeep with airbags and the modern Jeep. And now I don't
rear
know.
disc brakes. and stuff like that.
Yeah, like soccer mom could drive it.
Right.
Was
Yeah.
kind of the thing. Now it's like JK, or I guess they're even different now. They went to a newer body style. Now they have 4 doors and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think you got JL.
JL, JL, and then JK or JK.
I think JK was the 2008 to whatever.
to 14 or 15 or whatever. See that? And
You
we're
guys
not.
know a
I'm
lot
not even
about
a Jeep
Jeeps.
guy anymore. I haven't.
Yeah, I'm not
I
either.
haven't- I haven't had a Jeep in a long time, but you still kind of know. I would. Can I? Oh, you want me to
Before you keep going,
Yes, introduce.
let's get Mr. James Farley introduced.
Introduce.
So James, thanks a bunch, man, for coming on
Yeah.
with us
Yeah.
today. We appreciate it. We hope to have a good time today.
I think we're going to.
Yeah,
Already.
I think we're gonna have a great time. So let's keep this casual, keep it fun. I've known you for several years, obviously, which is why you're on with us. You're a great dude. You're in technology, IT, but I know you got a lot more to talk about, a lot more to offer. So pleasure having you today. Thanks for coming on.
That's
with
good
us.
to be here.
Yep,
Yeah, the fun, not technology, might be the best.
absolutely. Yeah.
Especially so
Technology might be a little bit of the conversation, which is okay.
a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, we don't want to nerd anybody out.
No, not at all.
So Jason's been wanting me. He thinks it's funny when I get on these rants about things that aggravate me. I'm not even a Jeep guy, and you know what aggravates me? The freaking ducks, the rubber ducks. Why is that a thing now?
Yeah,
That was never. Was that ever a thing when
No.
we were when?
It was always a thing to wave at the other Jeep people.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna,
Right.
hey, we're gonna wave at you, but don't put a rubber duck on my Jeep.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, Jeep people.
Wait, are you saying that people will automatically put a rubber duck on
You're
your
going to
Jeep?
start noticing it now, right?
I've seen the rubber ducks, but you're
Yes.
saying like you just
They got those
randomly
rubber
go
ducks.
up to a Jeep
Yes.
and put it on their
Yes,
Jeep.
they got those rubber ducks because somebody walked by and put their little rubber duck on their Jeep, and now they're displaying them on their dash. or
Okay.
wherever. I think that's weird.
But isn't that a great thing from Jeep to make that happen?
Oh, I think it's
To get a bigger following?
Jeep has. I think their cult following now. It has nothing to do with the duck.
I think it has something to do with the advent of the new,
Yeah,
more modern Jeep customer.
There you go. Yeah.
Your traditional like Jeep dude
Yeah,
isn't gonna do that.
yeah. He ain't.
If they had never put automatic transmissions in Jeeps, the duck thing never would have happened.
Yeah, or airbags.
Right.
No airbags. No automatic transmissions.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So you're saying if it was only manual Jeeps, there would be no ducks?
no ducks.
Because it would be a whole nother subset of drivers
Because
different from what
it's
they have
dudes
today?
like us.
Yeah.
I hope Kyle Fan is listening to this. It's guys like my buddy Kyle Fan, right? Who are driving a freaking Jeep, you know?
I gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've got another really good friend that's a Land Rover guy. And, he had back in the, I guess, late 90s, he had a Defender 90
Okay.
that was like so cool. And now nobody can afford Defender 90s because, they quit bringing them to the U.S. when Land Rover's like, we're not putting airbags in those things.
Yeah, and Land Rover still puts lip service to it, but they've largely abandoned their off-road heritage.
Yeah, it's not not what it was. The Defender today is not a Defender 90.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think too many people are taking those off road.
No.
Well, even if you get like the off-road version,
Yeah, it's still.
in order to get like a locking differential and the advanced traction control stuff, then it comes with 20-inch wheels.
Yeah.
It's like you don't want 20-inch wheels to go four-wheeling.
We want maybe 18-inch wheels, right? Like that's the max, but we want 15s with some fat meat.
Big
sidewalls so you can let the air out.
Yeah, some big meat Larry Hoovers.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, a little bit about James and I history. I guess we go back like 8 years or so, 10 years, maybe something like that. James was working at, I guess we probably had some run-ins before Acumen, really. I know you've been to been working with a couple MSPs in town.
I knew of you
time.
years and years ago, like,
Yeah.
4 MSPs ago.
It was the Comcast guy.
Yeah, he was the Comcast guy.
Small town, Nashville used to be a smaller town. It's getting a lot bigger these days. But we started working together back when he was at Acumen years ago, and got to know James really well. I can remember the point in time back in 2020 as well when COVID hit, when you were there at that time, and we were both talking about, what the heck's going to happen.
Yeah.
We both went to the beach at the same time, I think, right? For spring break.
The day that COVID happened, so I'm a gigantic Allman Brothers fan.
Okay.
Back in my college days, I saw them like 100 times. Still my favorite band of all time. They played their last show ever, like as a band in 2014 at the Beacon Theater in New York. And fast forward up to COVID, was the 50th anniversary of the Allman Brothers Band. And so JMO, like the last surviving original member, and then all the other members got together and they played a 50th anniversary show at Madison Square Garden. And I went up there to see it. And
in 2020.
Yes.
Okay.
And so I'm like taking an Uber from LaGuardia into Manhattan. We go through Chinatown and everybody's got masks on and stuff. And I was asking the Uber driver, I was like,
what's going on?
What is it? And he's like, man, they've been down this road before. I guess what was it? The other
the
virus that was more
the bird flu or something.
Yeah, the bird
like
flu,
that.
the one that was more prevalent in Southeast Asia. But so anyways, go see the concert. Everything's great. And the very next day, I'm going back to the airport, and that's when like all the airlines were canceling flights and stuff. Mm-hmm. And I was trying to figure out, am I going to have to rent a car and drive back to Nashville? I wound up getting out of Dodge, and I was on the plane. And the girl sitting next to me is on the cell phone with her mom, and she's talking about her boyfriend. She's like, "Oh yeah, my boyfriend's got COVID. I hope we don't all get sick." And I was like, "I'm doomed." And so then I landed.
That's back when we thought everybody was going to die, right?
Right. We landed in Nashville. Literally the next day, I picked up my friends, my kids, and went to St. George Island for spring break. And you were there.
Yeah.
At the same time, and it was like this weird COVID. Like I wasn't going to post any pictures on social media because I was at the beach.
You didn't want people to know you were having a good time.
They were shaming people for going to the beach.
They were. I forgot about that.
Yeah, they really were.
Yeah.
We got us and the Hollemans got asked to play with another travel team. Baylor and Hayden did, and this was already by July. Yeah. And at that point, people are shut. Like everything's shut down. Well, Alabama is getting grief for staying open, and Florida's getting grief for, staying open. Mm-hmm. I have never in my life, this is 4th of July week, I've never seen that many people on Gulf Shores beaches in my life. It was like, we got down there and it was like, looked like the Jersey Shore in the 90s for MTV or something. I was blown away by how many people were like, hey, look, we just want to get out of it,
Yeah. At the time me and James were at the beach, they were shutting it down. I think when we left, they closed down the beach area. Yeah. And that was St. George, Florida. So
yeah, because you might get it.
We were good. We were good while we were there. Some places started closing down, but they shut it down completely when we left. So it was a weird time.
It was y'all's fault.
I guess
they heard about James on the flight.
I didn't even mention. So part of the reason I brought that up was I got COVID. Like the week that we were down there, I got sick.
Did you?
Yeah, but I didn't have, but we're still trying to figure out what were the indicators of COVID. And so I was training for a race at the time and going out and doing like 6-mile runs in the morning. And, there's no easier place in the world to run it than at the beach because it's flat. And I was running. I was like, man, I just can't breathe. I just feel terrible. And I called my doctor here in town. They're like, well, you don't have a fever, and so you're probably fine. It's something else. But it was 100% COVID.
So you did get it.
Yeah, I've had it 3 times now.
I think I've had it 3 times.
I've had it once. So
I'm a good February of every year. It seems like I've gotten it.
yeah.
I mean, I had it. Yeah.
Well, we were trying to get together at that time, but I think I remember you saying you weren't feeling well or something, or maybe you made excuses. You're like, I'm not going to get Jason sick and his family.
He didn't want to tell you, hey, I've got the vid.
That's probably what it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you didn't know.
Now it comes out.
Right then, I mean, looking back at...
They didn't have testing kits or any of that stuff yet.
No, looking back at, March and April of 2020, you didn't know. You didn't know what it was going to do.
Yeah. Do you think COVID has changed the working world forever, the professional world? Or are we slowly kind of getting back to normal times?
I think normal's just been redefined.
Yeah.
I think that when I think about I've sort of the two, like my professional network and then my like friend outdoor kind of network. I hang out with a pretty diverse group of people, like different political leanings and things like that. And it's fascinating to kind of look at like how it's affected different people. And it's like, I know some people that have never gone back to work, and they won't, and they still wear a mask and stuff. And it's almost like they are exhibiting some, post-traumatic stress sort of characteristics from having lived through that whole situation. Which I empathize with them, but it feels weird to me. And then you've got like, I probably fell more into the camp of like, whatever, I remember during COVID, I was going to, because there wasn't anything to do. And Neighbors in Sylvan Park is one of my favorite like watering holes. Yeah. And they were just like,
shut down.
Come on.
Oh,
like,
really?
Yeah. We're wide open.
Yeah.
We'll pay fines if we have to. And so me and the rest of the unmasked.
That's where they hung out.
The degenerates were at Neighbors.
So did you? I know a lot of us probably lost friends over COVID, or lost connections with certain people. Did you find yourself going through that?
I don't think I lost any friends, but I certainly had some tense conversations. And I just felt like my instincts at the time were like, I'm no virologist or anything. I'm the armchair virologist, like everybody became. Yeah. And I was just like I know that herd immunity is a thing, and I'm super healthy. My risk of getting, horribly sick
is low.
Yeah.
I think my friend group stayed exactly the same. We all.
I do way more risky things in life every day than breathing water particles out of someone else's lungs.
Yeah,
that's true. You do.
Yeah, we went to duck camp and kept our COVID to ourselves. I mean,
everybody got sick together,
basically.
Because you got COVID a few times from duck camp, right?
I don't think I got it from duck camp, but I think yeah, we're pretty versed at like having all the medications in camp, and you get 10, 12 dudes that hunt together and eat dinner together. You take 10 people, right? And you put them in the same house and eat meals together and, hang out in such close quarters. Mm-hmm. You're going to get, if somebody's got the flu, somebody else is going to get the flu. If you got strep throat, somebody else is probably going to get strep throat. So we pass some sickness around, but we're all virile, healthy men. So.
So, James, you're at Atiba now. You've been there since the start of the year, right?
Yep.
Okay. MSP?
Yeah, so Atiba is an interesting organization. We are, to my knowledge, like the oldest, IT company in Nashville. We've been in business for 32 years. We've got close to 100 employees, which a lot of people don't realize.
32 years.
Yeah. Okay. And JJ Rosen started the thing back in the 90s. And so today we are like 70% custom software development, mobile app development, web hosting, web optimization.
WordPress website building,
Yep.
developing.
Staff augmentation on the software development side of the house, all kinds of interesting things. And then we got like this 30% of the business, which is a mix between IT projects, project management, consulting, and managed IT services. But there's, over time, I mean, over the years, there's really not been like a strategic effort to grow that side of the business or to put like a real intense sales strategy behind it. And so as we have kind of come into 2024.
Why was that, you think?
It was just a company with a strong lineage of custom software development, which is a completely different culture than managed IT services. Managed IT services, in a way, if done well, should be an extremely proactive approach to managing IT strategy, putting a roadmap together, executing on that roadmap, all those sorts of things, where software development world is much more reactive.
Right,
Somebody comes to you, they have an idea, you create a build, and then you go into the maintenance phase when you're done with it. So the culture was still very much like that, in that all the IT projects and a lot of the managed services things that we did they were reactive in nature. It was like a software company that's like, hey, can you migrate us to Microsoft 365, or can you deploy these security services for us, whatever it is. So just a slight little change of culture that we're to try to grow it and make it more 50-50.
Yeah.
And so it's great. We've implemented a whole lot of new things this year. We're doing a whole lot of things different. It is super exciting. One of the things that's great about being a company that's done things the old way for a long time is there's a lot of other MSPs in town that are maybe, let's say they're 5 or 10 years old or something like that, and they've become very ingrained and embedded in the platforms and the technologies and the things that they've built their business delivery model around. And at Atiba, we've just turned things on their head, and we've deployed a whole bunch of really new progressive things recently. So it's super exciting.
Because you have a huge input on that, right? You're leading the charge?
We're a very flat organization.
Okay.
So I'm helping to lead the charge, yeah. We have a great team, and so there's a lot of diversity of thought and a lot of people from different backgrounds.
Now, you guys are just in Nashville, right? Or do you do work outside of Nashville?
We do work all over the place, and one of the things that we used to hang our hat on for a long time was that we were, all of our folks were here. Well, during COVID, we had, and I don't think this was unique to us. We had a lot of folks that left to go to a full remote gig, or maybe to get in their camper and go work and make a different life for themselves. And through that process, we wound up taking advantage of the same situation other people did. It's like, okay, well, now we can cast our net across the entire country and go pick up very specific skill sets. So I'd say probably, I'm just pulling this number out of my head, probably 80% of our people are still based in Tennessee. But we've got some key executives that are in other markets, and quite a few developers.
Okay.
That's not a bad thing at all.
No, and we've got a lot of big opportunities that we're working on. We just made a big commitment very recently to sort of a strategic partnership that's going to allow us to have access to kind of smart hands and technicians on a national level.
Yeah.
So
I'm thinking about starting the Port St. Joe, Mexico Beach branch of NexGen.
I knew you were going to say that, Chad.
Why are you laughing?
Hey, I mean, we could be anywhere.
Yeah, we
right?
can be. Yeah,
we can be anywhere.
Yeah, we can be anywhere.
There's businesses down there too that need help.
Yeah, there's
right?
not a lot of businesses, but yeah, but I'm going to be remote.
Hey, yeah.
You need like a sport fishing boat that's got the little cabin so you can work remotely.
And the Starlink on the top, right?
James is going down the right path.
So you're, work-life balance a little bit. You're talking about. I know James is a big proponent of that. James takes some amazing trips. I know he's a big hiker, runner. Didn't you go to the mountains recently, or what did you do?
Yeah, so at the beginning of this month, it was just a short trip. It wasn't quite a long weekend. It was like a long weekend, like a 5-day weekend.
Okay. You got one of those Mercedes-Benz vans or something, right?
Yeah. So my girlfriend and I went out to. She had never seen a show at Red Rocks, and there was a group that she wanted to see at Red Rocks, which was an amazing experience everybody should do. And so I was like, well, how can we build a little fun thing around that? And over the years, I grew up with a friend that lived in Aspen. We grew up went to high school together, and so I would, for years, go out and hang out with him and stay for free. And I've just gotten super comfortable in Colorado. And so we built a little trip around the Indian Peaks Wilderness area. So if you've ever been to Rocky Mountain National Park, which is, you got like Denver, and then Boulder is just a little bit to the north, and then Estes Park is a little bit to the west, and then you got Rocky Mountain National Park. And the Rocky Mountain, sort of like Glacier and some of the others, you can't even go anymore, just spur of the moment during the busy times of year.
Crowded.
Yeah, you've got to buy these like reservations months in advance and all this kind of stuff. And so the Indian Peaks Wilderness area is immediately adjacent on the south side. So you got the exact same experience as far as the terrain and the same mountain range and the glacial lakes and all that stuff that Rocky Mountain has, but there's no roads in it. And so it's you can get a real remote experience without an enormous amount of effort.
Wait, so you say no roads, so you have to park somewhere close enough by, and then you're saying hiking in.
Yeah, so if you look at kind of like the whole area around it, I'm going to guess it's 400,000, 600,000 acres, something like that.
Okay.
Pretty good size. And all around it, from like Grand Lake and Granby on the southern side of the western side of Rocky Mountain National Park, all the way over to like Nederland and the Brainerd Lakes area on the east, there's probably 15 or 16 different Forest Service or wilderness trailheads where you can park and get access. And so, we rented a Mercedes Sprinter type camper vehicle. Yeah. That way you got 4-wheel drive and can kind of get back into the remote areas.
So when you park, are you coming back to the van to camp or stay, or are you going out miles and miles and staying the night out?
Yeah, so this trip was kind of like my perfect hybrid kind of trip I like to do. So we fly in, we get the camper, and then so every night, every evening, we'll go into a little town. Maybe it's a brewery, maybe it's whatever, and have an amazing meal. And then we drive to the trailhead of where we're going to start the next day, and camp in the van, get up at sunrise, and do 15 to 20 miles, something like that, and then get back to the camper close to dark, head into town to a new town, new brewery, and have a big time, go to the next trailhead and start all over again.
And we're talking about like 2 or 3 hours between trailheads, like the distance of driving?
Yeah, some of them were closer than that, maybe like an hour.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so do you prefer that or the national park area?
I prefer that. I love our national parks, and they're pretty amazing. And you look at like, especially if you travel internationally, and you look at like what's available in other parts of the world. Yeah, we're pretty unique. I've got friends that love to travel in Europe and stuff like that. Europe, by and large, does not have the same kind of wilderness experience that you can have in the United States.
We should still be patting Teddy Roosevelt on the back.
Yeah. Absolute visionary that he was able to get congressional support and everything at that time to establish the park system.
Yeah, that's cool, man.
It stinks that they're too crowded now. But even like somewhere like a couple years ago, I went to Glacier National Park and spent about 10 days there. And especially if you can get a backpacking permit, once you get beyond one day, it's like, man, this place is like a whole nother universe of, there's nothing that I enjoy more than being on the top of a ridge or a pass or a summit somewhere, and you're looking out and you can't see any signs of
life or anything.
Humanity, yeah. And then you sit there imagining, this is the same way it would have looked a couple hundred years
Lewis
ago.
and Clark.
Yeah.
Could you imagine have been sitting in Tennessee or Missouri or this side of the Mississippi River and thought, well, let's just go see what's out there.
Yeah.
So how and doing those kind of trips, how often do you run across like an oh shit moment when you're hiking? Is it every time or like
Well, I
every
think the
other
more
time?
that you do them,
The less of amount of shit it is.
that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. We get this time, you know, when you're out west, especially like high in the mountains, we were camping at like 11,000 feet and hiking up to a little over 14,000 feet on one day. And so you're going to get lightning in the afternoons, you're going to get hailstorms and
Automatic.
yeah, I mean, it'll go from 80 degrees to 35 degrees and windy and back and forth throughout the day. So there's a little bit of that. I've only had a few moments in the outdoors that made me uncomfortable.
Only a few.
Yeah.
Okay.
Tell us one.
Can you speak to that? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to think. Probably 4 years ago, I was in the Smoky Mountains by myself. I was doing like a 42-mile loop on a long weekend, backpacking. It was in the spring. You know, so like March in the Smokies can still be pretty nasty.
Yes.
And I had gone up from Cades Cove to up towards Rocky Top, and my plan was to cross over Rocky Top and stay at the next AT shelter north of there. And as I got up to the Appalachian Trail, the temperature had gotten down to like, it was probably 37, 40 degrees. And as I kind of got up to Rocky Top and then Thunderhead, which is the next mountain over that, it was just like cold, the wind blowing 55, 60 miles an hour,
Dang.
raining. And, you know, eventually, you've probably experienced this duck hunting, like eventually your rain gear will kind of wet through.
Yeah.
And I got to a point to where I was like, as long as I keep moving, I'll be kind of warm. But it was the kind of terrain where, anyways, I got cold. And so I wound up getting to a spot to where it was mildly hypothermic, you know, and
Yeah.
so I set up my tent and everything and got into dry clothes, made myself a little, you know, camp meal where you put the boiling water in it and everything.
Yeah.
And got in my sleeping bag with that hot meal between my legs and
Just all by yourself.
yeah.
Nobody around.
No, as you get older, it's more difficult to find somebody that, you know,
To embrace
that wants to do those
That'll
sorts
go
of
with
things.
you?
Yeah, well, that'll embrace the suck.
Yeah, and you'll have people be like, "Oh man, take me on a backpacking trip."
Yeah.
You know, and you have to.
Wait a minute, you go 30 miles?
Yeah, you also have to know, like, people they'll express interest, but you kind of have to know, like, they don't really know what they're getting into.
Yeah. So in that moment, you were like teeth chattering, like just like borderline thinking you're about to freeze to death.
Yeah, it was a little bit past that. You know, when you start to get cold, your
Motor skills are slow.
yeah, your motor skills are slow, but your body starts to take all of the blood flow and the warmth and concentrate on your organs and
Yeah.
the stuff that you need and let your arms and legs go. So you start cramping and
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff. And then the stage that I've never gotten to, I think, is the next stage where you're like, all of a sudden you feel great. And you're like, I'm just going to take a nap here.
And
That's
And then that's
that's
the
bad.
end.
Yeah. That's bad. You don't want to get to nap time.
Yeah, I had a similar experience, I guess, 3 years ago, backpacking in the Maroon Bells Wilderness area, doing the 4-pass loop from Crested Butte and around Aspen and all that. Similar scenario where I got wet and cold. And
Wet is the enemy.
yeah.
Yeah. Even at 50 degrees, wet can be a disaster.
Yeah, and with a little bit of wind so that your body can't retain any heat.
Yeah.
so is that something that you recognize from your training or education, or did it just come out of the blue and you're like, this is what it is? I gotta figure something out.
Yeah, we were talking about earlier. I grew up in Chattanooga, and I don't know if my parents were terrible parents or awesome parents, but when I was around 11 or 12 years old, they would take me and 3 or 4 of my buddies and dump us off somewhere, you know, outside of Chattanooga, and we would just go backpacking for 2 or 3 days, and then they'd pick us back up. And as we got older into our teens, they'd take us to the Smokies and drop us off for 4 or 5 days, and so it was just a lot of experience of just doing it.
Okay.
I've kind of made all the mistakes.
It's the best way to learn.
Yeah.
Started in your teen days then. Okay. Yeah, I know you're a runner too. When you're in these wilderness hikes, are you running or are you just hiking?
No, these are just hiking.
Just hiking. Okay.
I started running pretty, I mean, I won't say seriously because I'm still not running seriously, but I started running in my mid-30s, and it was mainly in response to I had started planning. I was still planning trips to go hike and do cool things, but it got to where I was not having a good time because I was in terrible shape. And we've kind of all probably been through the stage where you have kids.
Right after I had kids.
Yeah, your kids are in like toddler mode, so you're way less active. And
Taco Bell.
yeah, that's right. You get fat and out of shape, and so that's what spurred me. I got into running so that I could be in good enough shape to go do the outdoor things that I wanted to do. And then, I guess in 2016, my friend Derek Rice, that I worked at a MSP with back in the day, invited me to or encouraged me to get involved in trail running. And it blew my mind that I didn't even know that this existed.
Yeah, I've seen you post about it or do that. Yeah.
So we did Ragnar together as a corporate event, which was fun. And then, but then I got into. So I think 2015, my first trail run was the Still Hollow Half Marathon in Chattanooga.
You going to do any ultras?
I've done a few.
Like 100-miler plus?
No, I have no desire. That staying awake for 24 hours just doesn't sound fun to me. That's one of my my mottos and planning adventures. If you're not having fun anymore, then maybe it's not something I want to do.
Yeah.
I do think I'd probably like to do 50 miles. I've done 350Ks over the last year and a half or so, and looking for one for the fall of this year.
That's long enough.
Yes. Yeah, that's plenty long enough.
Yeah.
So your passion really is the mountain stuff, the hiking. The running was just to help you get in shape.
Yeah, and so like when you talk about the running, there's a whole variety of like sort of ultra extreme running stuff right now. Down in Franklin, there's like the Mid-State Mile. Hear people talk about. It's like a race where they've got this grueling 1 mile route, and it's just last man standing. How many loops can you do?
Really?
Yeah, and people do like 120 miles of that. It's insane. I admire that, but that is not fun to me.
Yeah.
If I pick out a race that I'm going to go do, even though I probably have some goals as far as to how fast and how, I want to be kind of competitive, at least be like in the top half of the finishers or whatever. But to me, it's more about pick out a race that's somewhere that's got beautiful scenery and maybe something about the terrain that's challenging and a new experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're going for the scenery, the vision, the look, the awe of the nature that's around you, right?
Yeah, the adventure. It's got to be an adventure.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Not just David Goggins mode.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and that leads me to say that usually when you go do these things, it's outside of Tennessee, right? I mean, you're going to Colorado or the Appalachians, something outside of here, right?
Yeah, generally. I mean, there's a lot of good stuff in Tennessee. There's a race up in that sort of straddles Tennessee and Kentucky called Yamacraw.
Yeah, I've heard of that one.
That I've done twice in the big South Fork area. It's an amazing race. I did one in Alma, North Carolina called the Solly Ultra last year, which is on the southern shore. It's in the in the Solly mountain bike area that they kind of built for the Olympic Games when they were in Atlanta.
Yeah.
And those are 50-milers?
That one was a 50K.
Oh, okay, 50K.
Yeah, but it's it's right by the Smoky Mountains, but it was North Carolina.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
That's a lot of up and down hills.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot. Don't see yourself stopping anytime soon?
No, I hope that I can continue to run and hike pretty long distances into my. I mean, when I do these races, I see lots of guys that are in their 60s.
Yeah.
That are still getting it done.
Yeah. That's a good goal to shoot for. That level of fitness I think it'll keep you young.
Absolutely.
I really hope I'm sort of fascinated by the idea of like the Appalachian Trail on this side of the country. I've hiked a lot of it. But then in the United States, you kind of got the big three, which are the AT, the Continental Divide Trail, and the Pacific Crest Trail. I'd love to do all three of those, but there's like 3-4 month adventures. And so as I get retired, I would love to still be in good enough shape to do that. And a lot of people in their 70s.
A lot of people do.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Appalachian Trail it's probably 4 months, right? To do the
Yeah, you can do it
beginning to
faster.
end?
Yeah, there's sort of different schools of thought.
Yeah.
You know,
On where the beginning and where the end, or where the.
well, just how whether speed versus enjoyment.
I think it should be enjoyment, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
You hear people that do those through hikes. They talk about 0 days. Going into town and kind of having a good meal and staying in a place.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Nope, that's kind of my style.
Yeah, I like that idea.
Was your girlfriend able to hang with you this last time in Colorado?
Yeah, she did great.
Did she? Okay.
So it was her.
You had that serious talk with her too?
We had a couple of serious talks about it. It was her first time. She has spent a ton of time in Italy, in the Dolomites, and
Okay.
she's like a dual citizen of Italy and
Okay.
United States, and so she spent a lot of time in those mountains, which are super rugged and amazing mountains. But the mountains in Colorado are unique in that they're just tall. I mean, you look at the Rocky Mountain Range in general. I can't remember how many 14ers there are in the entire range, but it's like 80% of the 14ers in North America are in the state of Colorado. And
A lot of altitude.
yep, it's just a weird geological phenomena that
Yeah.
Colorado got tall.
Matt's leaving this evening to go to Italy, so
Awesome.
spending 10 days there. Got any recommendations for him?
Just eat a lot.
You know what? I think he's planning on it.
That was already my plan. Yeah.
Eat the food, drink the wine, right?
That's right. I lived in Italy for a month when I was 15. I did like an exchange student thing.
Yeah.
But I was mostly in Rome, and then we would do like little excursions and things.
Okay.
But
What was your most memorable moment that you can recall?
that's a great question.
She was really hot.
I'm going with my wife, so that's not.
Oh,
Yeah.
so Matt's most memorable moment might be different.
Well, I think the most memorable moment for me, of course, this was like a long time ago, but we would take trains. So we'd go on weekends and stuff. We'd go like Florence or Naples or different parts of in Italy and in Europe as in general. You can get anywhere on a train. Like you just don't need to get in a car and drive. And I was 15 years old, and we're on this train ride to Naples, and we'd come through train stations in the middle of the night, and there'd be like guys with a big cooler of like Heineken tall boys
Yeah.
in the train station selling them through the windows,
Really?
and
Like, hey, man.
that may have been my first experience with underage drinking. I was just I was amazed that it was so easy to do there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I've kind of had this mindset that maybe that's why there's like maybe less binge drinking problems in
Yeah.
Europe because it's so acceptable for a younger person to have a glass of wine at dinner or
What's also
enjoy
interesting
a beer.
when you travel, like the whole drunk driving problem.
It's here.
It's a uniquely United States
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah.
Culturally, in other countries, the idea of drinking a lot and then getting in a car and going somewhere, they would think you're crazy,
Yeah. Yeah.
which you're crazy to do that.
Yes.
But
Well, yeah, I know. I had a question for you about the MSP landscape since
Yeah.
you're in it. What do you think is going to change, like from a technology standpoint, from an MSP standpoint, in the coming years?
that's a good question. I think there's the two biggest things that are going on that catch my attention is we have been in this cycle for about 10 years probably, and we're definitely at the height of it where there in the managed services space, there's an enormous amount of private equity that's
Yeah.
driving the acquisition and the roll-up of all these MSPs all over the place. And I've been part of some of those in different roles in different places that I've worked. And this is sometimes an unpopular position, but I maintain that whenever a private equity firm comes in and buys a company, in every case I've ever witnessed, and I'll be happy to be proven wrong sometime, but there's generally a tiny handful of people that make out like bandits, and the employees suffer, the clients suffer, the product suffers. It's just,
Yeah.
and I think that I mean, you guys have seen it too, probably with some of the big regional MSPs that have gobbled up a ton of people, and then it just sort of then everybody starts saying bad things about them because service delivery starts to suffer and all of that. I think that that's a trend that has been going on, and I think that it has sort of reached a critical mass and a industry awareness where it's making room for new boutique MSPs. That the fact that they're small and local and privately held is a huge advantage.
I see it happening on our side too with telecom.
Yeah. We see it benefiting us
Yeah.
in a lot of cases because we are small, boutique, white glove. We're able to do things big people aren't.
Yeah.
Right. I think the other thing that's going to drive the industry into directions that's where kind of is new is you continue to see, just going back a couple of years ago to the Target breach, where you had an HVAC vendor that wound up being the Achilles heel that allowed for this entire horrible breach situation. Over the last 3 or 4 years, not just a handful, but kind of all of the major vendors in the MSP space have had some kind of enormous vulnerability that's part of one of their little programs that these MSPs use as an overall tool set to deliver service. And I think that, when you look at like financial institutions, for example, you've got kind of healthcare and finance and these regulated industries, as they're starting to, vendor management has been this huge, there's a big push to do that better, right? And I think as organizations, what organizations should be doing is looking at all of their IT vendors, they're really looking at all their vendors in the HVAC example, but looking at all of their vendors and establishing like a critical vendor list. Who are these vendors that I'm doing business with that bring an enormous amount of risk to my organization and how I'm going to manage that. And I think that over time, probably in the near future, you're going to start to see some of these healthcare and financial firms and things say, I'm going to be very hesitant to allow a third party to install tools on my network that have root level access, because even though the value that they can provide, in being a partner for me, the risk outweighs that functionality. And so I think you'll start to see organizations bring more in-house.
And vendors will be scrutinized more or need more certifications or...
Yeah, and the certification game is a tricky thing too. It's like...
Yeah, certified by who?
Right. You've got some MSP that's like, I've got my SOC 2 Type 2. And it's like, okay, well, let me read the report. And most of them are not going to want to let you. They're going to give you the CPA's letter of attestation. But if you really got into that, you're going to realize like there's consulting firms that are in the business of helping people easily get their SOC 2 Type 2.
Yeah.
So...
pay to play a little bit?
A little bit, yeah. It's certainly good to have, but it's not the end all be all.
Yeah, I think the venture capital thing, that's a good point. Like I said, we're seeing it. And me and Chad talk about this a lot. We have with other guests. Small businesses are formed out of the need to provide a better service that a larger company is not performing.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. So even though that company's getting gobbled up, that does open the door for another company to step in.
It's this odd cycle. We talk about the cycle.
It's a constant cycle.
Yeah. It's like
but it
start the small business grows to this point because it's doing such a good job. It gets purchased, creates the need for the small one again. It's like this.
Yeah. I was talking to another MSP guy I know that's local, and I think he's 15, 20 years into his company, but he's like, why would I want to sell? I've got great customers and, we're making great revenue and this and that. I'm like, well, you're probably not the ideal candidate. You don't want to get out of your company, but there's a lot of people that are tired of doing it.
There's a lot of people in the same way that see the end of the road.
They see the end of the road, right?
Yeah. You see a lot of these transactions that take place. Bob's got an MSP. Bob decides to sell his MSP. Private equity firm comes in and they make him a deal. We're going to give you $10 million for it, and we're going to pay you out over 5 years, assuming that all of these magical things continue to happen, which puts you at risk of maybe not getting the whole amount. But then if you do the math on it, you're like, wait a minute, if I was, distributing to myself X number of dollars,
I could do the same.
Yeah, I'm basically just giving the company away to them, and
you're either taking that bulk up front if you can, right? Versus waiting for it. It's like anything in sales. Some people are ready to let go, and some people
Yeah,
aren't.
that's
to
it.
just
You
tap
need you
out.
need to be ready to move on and do something different.
Yeah.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah. But like you said, we're seeing it too. There's still a lot of money out there, right, that people are spending on
For sure.
businesses. So
The thing that I think is interesting about the MSP space is that it's managed services in general is a thing. I mean, why does anybody buy anything, right? They buy a thing from a company or from a person because of the way that it makes them feel.
Yeah.
Maybe it makes them feel confident, or maybe it makes them feel assured, or whatever it is. And I think that can be said for anything. But in the managed services space, delivering a technology service it's a service thing. So you have all of these service components, but then you've got the technical block and tackling that's critical. And so when I go into a managed services opportunity, I'm always trying to assess all these things. And so like sometimes you'll do a network assessment for a company, for example, that has an incumbent MSP that's in there. And you've gone through and you've found servers that are not being patched. You've got endpoints that are not, their endpoint management solutions not being updated. Their documentation is bad. There's not a really good strategy for how are we managing lifecycle management over a span of time. But the executives that make the decisions in this business, when they call into the help desk, they talk to Chad that they love, and he's friendly. And, so how do they feel?
They play golf together.
They feel great.
Yeah.
The execution's terrible, but the feeling is good. So they're going to stay with that vendor. And then sometimes you've got vendors that are doing an amazing job on the execution, but they're hiring very technical people that have bad bedside manner.
Yeah.
And they'll lose that business because the executives, they're like, well, they're not that friendly when we call in. They don't respond as quickly as we'd like them to.
Yeah.
yeah, I think
It's a weird balance that you have to arrive at.
It is. I was talking to a guy at a networking function last week, and he was telling me he runs an MSP, but he was telling me of a couple stories he's heard lately, or a couple clients he's gotten. CPA firm, small firm, right? They have QuickBooks on a server. They get hacked, ransomware on the server, and hey, you got to pay us 0.5% of Bitcoin to get your data back. So I bring that up because James here today, but he probably sees it and hears of it. But I think the SMB segment, the small businesses out there, they're getting targeted pretty heavily right now.
Super heavily.
And, for most small businesses out there, they just don't get it. They're not willing to invest in it, right, until it happens to them.
When everybody thinks about cybersecurity from the standpoint of, I'm going to buy SentinelOne and deploy it on my workstations and servers, and I'm going to buy this big Fortinet firewall that's going to keep everybody out. These product centric sort of deals, but the majority of what happens, the shortcomings of lack of execution on cybersecurity is just people stuff. They've not had good awareness training.
Yes.
They don't have good internal controls in place to make sure that the person that writes the checks and moves the money isn't the same person that takes the requests to do those things, and that sort of stuff. I saw an interesting statistic the other day, just standard business email compromise, which is, you get an email from somebody that says that they're James and I'm asking you to do something, but then when you really look, oh wait, that's not really James. Those kind of scenarios, those instances are up over 4,000% over the last 12 to 18 months because of the advent of AI. Because if you're bad character guy in the Ukraine, used to you would get these emails. I shouldn't pick on Ukraine.
Wherever.
Used to you would get these emails and you'd be like, oh, I can tell in 3 seconds that this is not.
Yes.
But now they throw it into ChatGPT and say, write me the best phishing email that you can come up with.
Yeah.
And their success rate has gone through.
Where prior to it would be, you could tell.
Right.
Like you could tell that it was not an English speaking person.
That's right.
The way they would type.
The hackers or those people doing it, you think they're always going to stay one step above the cybersecurity services that are being put in place?
I don't know that they're a step above the cybersecurity practices. It's like James said, it's the education.
The most recent one that I have seen was a or that I'm aware of. This was not a client that I was working with. It's a client that a friend of mine was working with. But it was a scenario where the company that became the victim, to the tune of about $400,000, was doing everything pretty well. But they were dealing with a subcontractor that was not doing things well. So subcontractors, Microsoft 365 tenant gets breached. Bad character is in there. Typically what they do is they'll get access and they'll just watch.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that this character had done was to create a rule so that when this CFO of this company sent an email, the emails would not go out. It was like a 3-minute or 4-minute delay or something like that. Something that you would not notice, right? Mm-hmm. And so they had turned that on, and then they're just sitting there and watching. Well, good, doing things pretty well company is wanting to get paid, or wanting to pay them, actually. They're trying to pay the subcontractor. And so via email, they exchange account numbers and routing numbers back and forth. And, to establish the online payment, they get an email back from their subcontractor who says, oops, typo, sorry, this is the actual account number. Make sure you use that one. And so they do. They change it and wire $400,000. And a couple of weeks go by, and
They're like, you didn't pay me.
yeah, they're like, hey, we had that conversation, or you got, we want to get paid. And they're like, oh, we paid you. Mm-hmm. And so that was the whole thing. Yeah.
That's got to be so common too. So many stories of that we just don't hear about.
Yeah, there are some tools that could have been put in place that would have notified this third, subcontractor that permissions had been changed and rules had been set in the 365 tenant. But that's no responsibility of the person, over here at the company that wound up being the victim. Ultimately.
That's the employee training that you mentioned, right? More so for that.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's a great example, cybersecurity liability insurance. Mm-hmm. That's the kind of thing that you want to have that insurance for.
Yep.
But I was talking with a firm up here in Galveston earlier this week, just consulting with them on filling out their application for cyber liability insurance, trying to help them understand, be very careful and very honest and very intentional about how you answer these questions. Because these insurance companies, when you file a claim, they're looking for a way
not to pay.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Because it's big money.
That's exactly right.
Could be big money.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh.
They might have a question on there. Do you have an MDR service with a 24/7 security operations center? And you're like, yeah, we've got antivirus. Check.
Yeah.
Right. We have McAfee.
Right. Yeah. Not good enough.
Yes.
That brings up a good point. So I mean, the companies today, I would imagine, if you're at least 20 employees or so, you're probably needing to get cybersecurity insurance or have that added on. I mean, it's something you would want to look at.
Look at industry agnostic. It really doesn't have anything to do with, you could be a 5-employee company that's doing gigantic real estate transactions or something.
Yeah.
Yep.
Your exposure is proportional to the.
If you're like a title company or something, or
right.
Yeah.
And in some cases, maybe you're not dealing with huge transactions, but the reputational damage of maybe you're in a business where,
Yeah.
reputational damage can be as significant as the financial damage.
Yeah. I know we hear of companies that we talk to a lot talking more about looking at cybersecurity insurance or the need of it. So
Yeah.
I think it's a lot more prevalent these days. And
it's a slippery slope because, you get your average like P&C insurance agent out here that's got their fire insurance and their general business liability insurance or whatever. And his carrier is like, hey, man, you need to go sell cybersecurity now because you can.
They're like, okay.
Right.
yeah.
Then so you have a very well-intentioned insurance agent that just doesn't have the training to help their clients get that coverage in place properly.
That's a good point. So at least hire an expert, right? Somebody that specializes in it, especially on that side.
Yeah. That's what triggered the conversation I was having earlier this week. This company, they have a fantastic insurance agent, nicest dude in the world. He's just not that very well versed in technology.
Yeah. I mean, that's a totally different ballgame. Cybersecurity insurance versus, business liability insurance.
Auto versus your auto policy.
Yeah, insuring
Different.
your bulldozers and whatever it is.
Yeah. Oh,
Probably should be a different dude.
Oftentimes it is. There are folks out there that specialize in it.
Yeah.
yeah. So your background is more MSP network related, but you get fascinated by all this cyber stuff. I mean, that's got to be a focus of yours now, right? Or a major talking point at least.
It's an integral part of what an MSP does. So I think there's MSPs that offer a lot of services in the cybersecurity space these days that I'm not sure that they should. I think that there's still maybe to have an old school attitude, but I believe in a separation of duties. So if I'm going to come in and offer proactive cybersecurity monitoring and management services to NexGen, I might even throw in a service that's doing like real-time vulnerability management and include some remediation to that. But I'm also going to recommend that in order to keep me honest and just to make sure that we haven't missed something, you should be hiring an independent third party to come in, and do a penetration test annually or biannually.
Yeah.
Those sorts of things, just to make sure that
For sure.
I's are getting dotted and T's are getting crossed.
Yeah. That's a good statement, a good pitch on your side to let a client know that for sure.
Yeah. I am not a
Because it's never 100. Nothing's ever 100%.
Yeah.
Right?
I am not a fan of your MSP or MSSP being the same company that does your external penetration test.
Yeah.
You'll see
Because
that
it can be skewed.
You'll see that a lot, but it's very much a, wolf. Was it the wolf guard in the hen house or
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fox in the hen house.
fox in the hen house?
Fox
That's
and
it.
yeah, that's it. That's awesome, man. So James, each episode we kind of do a rapid fire question session.
Okay.
We got a few questions we're going to run by you. This is kind of like an A or B thing, man. So
Whatever comes to your mind.
whatever comes to your mind.
Yeah.
So we'll have a few questions that we throw out at you. Appreciate your time here, being with us today, man.
Yeah, it's been fun.
Good to sit
It's been
down
fun.
with you.
I think we might have to have James on again or have sidebars about old Jeeps and Scouts. And
Yeah, I saw where the conversation was going, and we were going to talk about
you were
Jeeps the
going
whole
to
time.
freaking cut us off.
Yeah.
This would have been a whole lot more entertaining if we would have talked about.
But neither one of you are Jeep guys anymore.
Yeah,
right?
but we still. Did you go to any of the Rosser?
It's like if you were ever a parent, you're always a parent.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay.
Did you ever go to any of the
gotcha.
Rosser roundups and stuff on Mont Eagle?
No, but I rode Mont Eagle a lot.
Yeah.
And I used to ride the Dixie Run over back when Teleco Plains off-road vehicle area was there.
Yeah.
In the 90s.
Yeah.
Oh wait, you said earlier that you stopped with the Jeeps because you would go ride, then you'd have to replace parts, $1,000 worth. Is that? I mean, with a newer Jeep,
It would still be.
you're still
if
going to
you
have
were-
to do that,
Yeah, if you're using it for
like
real,
serious off
for
road.
real, the Jeep that you see parked at Sam's in the parking lot that looks like an off-road guy is probably
not.
not. It's probably not been off its driveway.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
You
so
can just lay down and look up underneath it and tell. If
Yeah.
the skid plates are just all rusty and
scratched and
scratched up and gouged, then
If
you know
it's-
it's legit.
if it has dents in it, that's pretty good indicator that this person actually uses. Yeah, and
What would be your estimation of Jeeps on the road today that actually go off road? 5%?
I think I will think, in my opinion, I think where we live or out west, it may be higher. Like if you
out west.
I
as
was
in
going to say
Colorado?
Nashville's low compared to.
Nashville's low. I guess Tennessee as a whole. You
Yeah.
get to Chattanooga,
There's a
or,
lot.
or closer to Knoxville or East Tennessee, Western North Carolina,
Yeah.
it's going to be higher. But Hendersonville, 5%.
Yeah, there's nowhere to trail. There's very few places to trail ride up here.
Used to go to
Okay.
Masker Farms before they
Where is the closest place around here to trail ride?
Summertown, probably.
Probably.
They
And
still
you
got
get
that open.
up at Land Between the Lakes.
LBL,
Yeah, there's some good trails.
Summertown.
Okay,
LBL.
so
there's
west
a
of here,
private.
northwest.
There's a private place at Summertown that like some guys have built, but yeah, or Mont Eagle. You can still ride some around Mont Eagle, right? Some
Yeah.
of that.
Yeah.
It's still public, but a lot of it's private now, and you can't.
Yeah, we used to go, the number one place in Chattanooga was called Etna Mountain.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm not even sure you can still get
I
up there
think
and
it's
ride.
private now,
Yeah.
right?
I think so. I haven't been up there in years.
Yeah, like it was. I mean, we had a lot of fun for a lot of years doing that.
I've always wanted one to do that specifically. Just don't have the time right now. So maybe one day.
Just do it, man.
Just do it.
But yes, you will break things.
Yeah.
You will. I was driving through when we were four-wheeling.
Break
all the
things
time.
as in you need to get a tow when you're done.
No, or you need to be mechanically inclined.
Yeah, and I'd carry spare parts and stuff.
Yeah, you need to be mechanically inclined enough to band-aid it back together to get home, or to get to a trailer to trailer it home.
Yeah.
And now for people like you that maybe you're interested in it a little, but you don't really have the bandwidth to like build a whole. But they have some of these side by sides and things now.
Yeah, they have become very popular.
Yeah.
I could tell you even.
That's true. But you're towing it where you want to go versus driving the Jeep there.
Right.
The
Well,
difference.
I was towing my Jeep also.
Oh, you were?
Yeah.
Because when you get one really set up,
You don't want to drive it every day.
yeah, my Scout top speed was like 45 miles an hour
Okay.
because it was geared so low.
Yeah, yeah. It's not a like. I mean, you might go cruise Gallatin in it, but you're not going to go like daily drive this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
MPGs are like 10 probably on it as well.
I broke a control arm mount pulling into a parking lot one time in a TJ after like we'd been four-wheeling all weekend.
Yeah.
And it was like nothing broke, and this was like on a random Tuesday evening. I turned left into the Tractor Supply parking lot in Gallatin and broke a control arm mount in the Jeep. It was like,
Yeah.
it's like, what in the world did I just break? And I get out of there and look, and control arm's just dangling. I was like, well, okay,
That's not an easy fix.
not an easy. You're not fixing that unless you bring a welder to the parking lot. So,
All right, let's get the rapid fire in.
Get
You
'em.
ready, James?
I'm ready.
Let's go, man. This is kind of more catered to you. Go ahead and hop in anytime, okay? I know you got a few questions.
yeah, I
to
got
ask.
questions. Yeah,
All right, so while hiking, bear or a mountain lion,
you chance to be attacked by.
which one would you rather face?
Oh, bear all day long. I've ran into
I told you.
dozens and dozens and dozens of bears.
I told you.
99.9% of the time, completely harmless.
Matt and Jason looked at me when I responded. If he responds anything but bear, he's not a hiker because the mountain lion comes out of nowhere.
I was just say I've never seen a mountain lion.
There you go.
But I know that they've seen me.
Yeah.
Okay.
And when you that moment that you see it, I would say there's a 50% chance you're going to lose this
Yeah.
interaction.
Snake attack ninja to the neck.
Yeah.
Okay.
James is legit.
Yeah. Check.
Check.
A knife or a lighter? Which one, if you could only have one?
Lighter. If you in a bad situation, if you can't make a fire to get warm,
It's bad.
you're toast.
You're toast. Okay. All right. A couple local places here. Would you rather have Bearded Irish, Yazoo, or Jackalope?
Bearded Iris.
Favorite beer. Period. You can only have one for the rest of your life.
It changes over time, so I can't just give you a straight answer. The longer answer is it was Oscar Blues Dale's Pale Ale for a really long time, but then they were recently bought out by Monster Energy Company,
Yeah, it's not the same.
and I'm just like, oh.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to say Three Floyd's Zombie Dust.
Okay. Yeah. I used to love Mama's Little Yellow Pills. That was
yeah.
like one of the best craft pilsners there was.
Yeah.
So
My indication that they had been acquired by somebody was I was at the grocery store and they had an Oscar Blues Dale's Light. It was like a 95
I saw that too.
calorie. I was like,
Yeah. They would have never done that.
that's exactly right.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a cool brewery in Brevard, North Carolina.
Yeah.
Also.
I think you've already answered this one, but Neighbors or Jonathan's?
Neighbors in Sylvan Park.
Very specific.
Jonathan's over the new Neighbors.
Are you
Okay.
good?
You know, like Franklin,
Yeah, yeah.
Gulch. It's not the same.
Okay. Good answer.
Beach or mountains?
Mountains.
Everest or Denali?
Denali.
He's not talking about the vehicle, right?
No, not talking about the vehicle. Would you rather work at a network or a cyber opportunity?
Indifferent.
Software or hardware?
Hardware. Which is going away.
But he's an old transmission guy.
Yeah, I love things with blinky lights and moving parts.
Dating or married life?
Dating.
Elementary or high school time for your kids? What do you prefer?
You mean like where they are in life?
Yeah,
High school.
high school time.
I am really enjoying this transition from you're a child that does what I say, and we have this like parent-child relationship, to evolving into we're friends and can go do some really cool stuff.
Yes, sir.
And I'm your parent, but we're also enjoying this as like friends kind of thing.
More of a team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all I got. You got anything
Nope.
else?
My last one. $500 million lottery jackpot.
Yep.
You get it. What do you do?
I buy a nice house with a swimming pool.
Lump sum, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. You got to go lump sum.
Yep.
And
Nice house where?
I like where I live now, kind of like on the south end of Green Hills. So as long as my kids are still young and in school and doing all of their kid things, I would stay in Middle Tennessee.
This is like $300 million in your pocket.
Yeah.
So,
Crested Butte or Telluride would be strong candidates for where I would get a second home.
yep.
And but I have a strong desire for a transient sort of lifestyle, and so I would be a strong candidate for a really cool off-road RV of some type, and spend my time
Just going.
seeing stuff. Yeah.
That's awesome.
I like it. Yeah.
No beach house?
Nah.
He could get there. He could.
The beach is all right. I'm
Yeah.
good at the beach for a couple of days. The beach is kind of boring. I mean,
Yeah.
it's pretty and it's fun to go get in the water and swim around or whatever.
No hills to hike.
There's very little outdoor. I mean, there's some water sports stuff, but
Yeah.
I have a really difficult time sitting on the beach for longer than about 30 minutes, and I'm like, all right, what are we doing next?
Yeah. I gotcha. We appreciate you, James.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming out with us, man.
Thanks for jumping
Yeah.
on. This was fun.
It's a good
Yeah,
time.
really
Yeah.
fun. Thank you.
Like
man.
us, subscribe, review. Please
Comment.
comment.
Comment. Yeah.
Jason didn't do anything dumb like say like vanilla bean ice cream is the favorite ice cream of all time.
It's the best ice cream, man.
No, James, best ice cream.
Best ice cream is Jenny's darkest chocolate.
Okay, not vanilla bean.
That sounds good.
Not vanilla bean.
And if you get the standard, which I think is 2 or 3 scoops,
yeah,
they have a peanut butter ice cream that's
so you
got.
put that in the middle of it.
Oh,
There you
Yeah,
go.
there you go. A little Reese cup action.
that sounds good.
I do the peanut butter with chocolate flecks and the strawberry jam. So it's like peanut butter and jelly.
What is this place again?
Jenny?
Jenny's.
Okay. I've never been there.
Y'all like how Matt responds when we talk food or
Oh, yeah.
food or drink?
All the time.
If you go to Jenny's, the special sauce. I mean, their ice cream's great, but it's the waffle cone. They're making their waffle cones from scratch in a real time. Yeah, even if you go to Ben and Jerry's, you're getting a waffle cone that was made like
Yeah,
a week ago.
yeah.
It's not the same.
Where's Jenny's at? Is it in Nashville?
Yeah, there's a bunch of them.
Okay. We don't have
you go.
one up here.
Let's go, Jenny's.
Let's do it. I need to take the kids there.
Yeah.
All right,
Thanks.
guys.
Thanks. Appreciate it, James.